We're back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Friday, and we have Will with us tonight. And Will's been chomping at the bit with all this shit that's been going on this week. He's been raring to go, anxious to start talking. And we know Will likes to talk. So I thought, fuck, I need a day off. Let's give him a shot.
Yeah. By the way, first of all, thanks, Mike. I'm at 1,050 followers on TikTok. I rolled that up,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
a lot of people came saying, "Yeah, I saw you on the podcast, and that's why I'm here." So it's really cool.
There's something
Um,
else I got to bring up along those lines, though.
mm,
I heard from Old Soul, and Old Soul was suggesting people they kept asking about donations in the program she works with
mhm.
bringing women in and putting them up, and they always wanted to donate. Um, um, and she said that they were trying. They had a GoFundMe on Jesse Dollarmore
Yes.
website. Okay,
Mhm.
and they were trying to get to 20,000, and they were at like
Cool.
15,000, and she put it out on the podcast, and they had another 10 days to go. She told me that as of this morning, they hit 20 grand. So I don't,
Outstanding.
I don't know that I can take full credit for it with the show, but I'm going to.
Yeah, and a lot of the people that started following me are like, a lot of them are really smart people, but a lot of them are like, um, "Hey, I heard you on the podcast, and what you guys say helped me out
Yeah.
to kind of understand what's going on, or just not be afraid." Because I mean, I made a comment today at a video. I'm gonna kind of start with some personal stuff. I'm a retired Teamster, Local
Hmm.
896, Joint Council 42, 20 years in the brewery industry. So I got that. Um, so when Sean O'Brien decided, hey, um, we're not going to endorse either one on the international side, um, I'm like, are you out of your mind? But
Yeah.
it's typical Teamster president, because if you know the history of the Teamsters, I mean, it's why Jimmy Hoffa vanished pretty much. But I was very upset, and I didn't, I stopped watching the news and all that, and I wasn't feeling well on Tuesday. I literally had a toothache, so I was kind of out. But I got on a live with one of my followers, uh, Venus Rising, and she was telling me, I told her someone came up there in the comments and said, "Hey, Teamsters are endorsing Trump." I said, "Oh, hell no, they're not." And then she goes, "Oh no, the Teamsters are sort of Kamala Harris." I go, "No, they're not." And she sent me the article. What happened was that Sean O'Brien, who lives in his own little bubble, remember he was at the RNC,
Yeah.
but he got they're claiming that he got ghosted at the DNC. No, they saw his speech and they didn't want his ass out there because they knew
Yeah.
what he was going to do. Because he was going to try to balance something. Sean Fain, who UAW got, knows the assignment. He
Yeah.
doesn't. He's trying to play some weird game. But then all of a sudden, Joint Council 42, Joint Council 43, Joint Council 42 is a conglomerate of all of about 15 to 20 local unions in the West. 896 that I was part of is part of them. They represent 300,000 Teamsters. They came out for Kamala Harris.
Right.
Joint Council 43, another came up in Michigan, came up for Kamala Harris. All around the country, local unions and joint councils are turning their back on Sean O'Brien. Because the one thing I will say, I'm a working person. I've worked all my life. I was a union member, not union member. I know how this thing works. And for anyone who is a union member, because the reason Sean O'Brien said that um, the Teamsters weren't, he was going to do it because he did a phone poll and said 50% of Teamsters were supporting Trump. And then someone was on, Stephanie Miller said, "Hey, I got a call from him. He didn't ask us whether we supported Trump or not. Just ask us what we wanted."
Yeah.
So to that lying fuck, good luck getting reelected, because the rest of us understand that Donald Trump is one thing. He's a goddamn scab. He doesn't give a damn about the working man, and he has stiffed every working person has ever worked for him in his life.
Yeah, I
So
said
if you're,
something. I said
yeah,
something.
go ahead.
I said something on TikTok about that. I said it's ironic that we've got all these locals going against Sean O'Brien, and I'm thinking, if you're head of a union, at the very least, you should be able to unify your union. And if you can't unify your union, then they ought to get another fucking leader, and
Yeah,
hopefully they
and
will.
yeah, they will, because part of it, Teamsters presidents have had a bad rep, and understand, which I will never understand to the day I die. They were big supporters of Ronald Reagan, who loved to break unions,
Yeah,
who broke unions, who took apart the middle class. And part of it is that the pension fund's huge. So they use that as a like a piggy bank.
right.
But I was glad to see common sense roll across most of the Teamsters, because you could see it. You really can see it. You got to be really at the core a hateful person, and being in a union thinking that Trump's going to help you out. He's not going to help us. He's going to
No,
lay us out to dry.
it was more. I think that less than they were thinking about supporting um, the Republicans. I think they were trying to push on the Democrats. You can't do that to us. I should get invited. You got to bow to us. And if they don't bow to you, then they're going to go, okay, then we won't vote for you. Fuck
Well, yeah,
you.
well, that's fine, because the thing about it is, like, I heard what happened to DNC, and what it was, they want to look at your speech to an extent. They want to see what you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So they did this, and they just didn't trust him, because they knew what was going to go on up there. I mean, you saw what he did in the RNC. It kind of pissed them off too, because it was kind of a weird speech.
Yeah.
It was really kind of, dude, are you in or are you out? Make up your mind. And that's the thing. He was on Fox News Business, um, whatever that is, business, whatever they call it, and one of the Fox networks. And he was just hemming and hawing. And they brought up that poll, and the monitor, the guy goes, "Well, why don't you support Trump if three quarters of your men of your members support him?" No, 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 no. Three quarters don't support. He knows better. If he
Yeah.
had done that, it would have been worse than what he saw.
Yeah.
I mean, being neutral, at least the joint councils will say, "Okay, we made a decision, you won't." But if he had gone Trump, it would have been a nightmare. He knows it. He's just trying to play two against the middle, thinking that if the Republicans win, they'll get something out of it and they'll be protected.
Right.
No, that's the one thing I'm seeing right now from these cowards.
That's what they are,
And
cowards. They're gutless
and
cowards.
yeah, and part of it is like the whole rhetoric thing that they're trying to turn on Democrats. Well, you're calling Trump this, you're calling Trump that. So that means you're encouraging him to be, violence against Trump. Everyone laughs at it. But
Hmm.
but then I watched Tim Scott and Brian O'Donnell come out of their little hidey holes and do the same in rhetoric, and just copy the rhetoric from Trump, mostly from JD Vance. And I'm looking at them going, you do understand they don't want you in that party. They
No.
tolerate you because you are the tokens.
Right. And you're spewing the shit they want you to spew, but they'll
And,
kick you to the curb in a moment's notice
and that's the thing. That's and
whenever they want.
I did a video and going, whatever they're promising you, and this goes to the same Sean O'Brien, you're not going to get it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's going to be basically like Darth Vader in Star Wars going, I'm changing the deal. Pray I don't change it any further, because they're not going to give you what you want.
Well, you
And
should be smart enough to know that by now after what we've seen for the last 8 years. Trust Donald Trump? God, if you trust Donald Trump right now, you're ignorant.
and that's the biggest thing what I see right now with the mass media. Um, they keep trying to sandwash his shit.
Yeah.
You cannot see the New York Times had a two-page article about the difference between Trump policies and Kamala Harris policies. What are you talking about? He has no policies.
Right.
And then economically, the economy is rolling great. Yes, I know there are pockets of people with prices up, but that's going to get, if Trump becomes president, those prices you're complaining about, they're going to go higher.
Yeah. A lot higher.
Your job you have, it's going to disappear. The infrastructure, they're going to end it. I mean, Mike, Speaker Johnson already said if they come into power again, they're going to end the Inflation Reduction Act. They're going to stop all the construction. They're
Right.
just going to stop it. Why? Because they're bitter little pitches, and they're going to take away the money and just let people sit there. I mean, they poured. I read this. I saw this the other day. I mean, from as a Puerto Rican, I watched two of these guys get up and support Trump, who I never heard of. But I read an article that came out that just said Trump tried to stop money to help Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria because he
Yeah.
didn't think they're American. Meanwhile,
He really didn't. He
he
had no
didn't. I
idea.
mean, he didn't think that Puerto Rico was part of the United States. Meanwhile, under the infrastructure bill, they're pouring billions of dollars into Puerto Rico infrastructure they haven't done in decades.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons they had a problem with Maria. Billions of dollars going in there from the Biden administration. Why? Because Joe Biden considers them part of America. It
Right.
wasn't even a consideration. There's billions of dollars going down there. And now we're close to stopping all that. What
Well,
make it make sense
Well,
to me?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. I get people worrying and upset about what they hear in the media. If you really look at this thing, what we're really watching, we're watching people that are in desperation mode. They are losing substantially, they're flailing, and they're just ramping up their rhetoric. And if you get taken in by the ramped up rhetoric, you're playing right into their game. They are in worse shape than they were yesterday, and they'll be in worse shape
Oh,
tomorrow. Things are looking, I mean, I kept talking, for the longest time they kept talking about, okay, this is going to be a toss up race, this is going to be a close one. For a long time I've said I think Kamala will win by a significant margin, maybe even a landslide, depending on what Donald Trump does between now and November. And they said, no, it's going to be a toss up. Well, now some of those polls and some of these people studying this are saying, this could be a serious landslide. And the reason they're doing it is because we're getting close to the election, and they don't want to look like complete idiots by sticking to their guns as far as being a tight race. I don't see in any way how Kamala doesn't win in a big way.
and the campaign that the Harris campaign is doing is brilliant. I
Yeah,
mean, I lived in Macon, Georgia, and I all of a sudden saw, why is Tim Walz in Macon?
yeah,
He popped up in Macon. He's at a school. He went to a restaurant I've seen before. He showed up in Macon. Then he's in Atlanta. He's in Georgia. He just popped in there before he went to North Carolina.
yeah.
I mean, the point is their campaign is smart and they keep focusing on people. The Trump campaign is just being run by just people who are just screaming at. I have never seen anything this bad. I have never seen anything like this.
No, I
That
mean,
that I mean, even the 16 campaign was not like this
yeah.
from Trump.
The thing about it is that the ground game, people on the streets, is incredible and very large with Kamala Harris's campaign. There is literally zero ground game for Donald Trump. And without that ground game, how do you expect to win an election? You can't.
No. And the one thing I was thinking about you when something you're saying about narcissist, because you put
Yeah.
me a real good perspective on that. Um, I mean, I had problems with my dad, but my dad was never a narcissist. He always looked out for us. So I mean, he had his own issues, but I knew that was not one of them.
Yeah.
But when Trump is in Uniondale, New York, okay, so it's Suffolk County. We know that's a Republican stronghold. So it's like Staten Island.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, dude, what are you doing in New York? And then you get up on stage and say, I'm going to win New York. I'm going, you can't be that delusional. Then it hit me. I'm thinking, why would he do it? And then your words of what he is as a narcissist popped in my head. It's because in Florida and North Carolina, there's a good possibility he's going to lose those.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris is in there, and she's not saying I'm going to win it. She's in there messing with him. So he has to prove in his mind that I am the greatest and I can walk in any state and take it.
Or that he's
Yeah,
taking one of Kamala's states if she's saying he
exactly.
yeah. Yeah, I see that. I mean, he can't help himself. He has to win. He cannot accept the loss. He cannot say he was wrong, and that's why, this thing we're dealing with in Springfield, Ohio. This
Oh
is
my
something
God.
that's really upsetting me to no end, because it's putting a lot of people in danger for nothing more than a lie that's been proved to be a lie, but still
Hmm.
Donald Trump can't admit that he's wrong, so he doubles and triples down. And then JD Vance, who's younger, more cognitive, knows better, but he's purposely doubling down on it. And in the process of doing that, he's putting people in danger in Springfield, Ohio, where nothing's going on.
No.
Nothing bad's going on until Donald Trump got involved.
Wall Street Journal, not a left wing rag or anything like that. They put a reporter on it. And she went into Springfield and she found out the truth
Yeah.
that this was started by one woman, and she met with a woman who has a Trump T-shirt and is going to vote for Trump. God Almighty! And she made that rumor because her cat was missing, and her neighbors are Haitian. She found the cat, Mrs. Sassy, Miss Sassy, or whatever she was, Miss Sassy, hiding in the basement.
Yeah.
Now everyone laughed. Oh, that's so cute. No, and she apologized. No, I'm going to say this right to everybody. Please forgive me. Fuck you, lady, because you said that because you're a racist to your neighbor.
Yeah,
Why would that pop in your
your
head?
first go to was to accuse your Haitian neighbors with a racist comment. That was your first go to before
That
you
was your
even
first
looked in
go-to.
the fucking basement.
And so she wanted to apologize. Everyone goes, "Oh, isn't nice?" No, you let her off the hook. Don't
Yeah.
put her on the hook, lady. You instead of saying my cat's missing, God, where is she? Well, the black people next door, the foreigners ate my cat. That's where your go-to was. And I hear no one talking like that. No one saying that. Well, I am.
Yeah.
Because if you said that and everything was coming out of me and you came over and apologized to me, the first words out of my mouth were, "You have 30 seconds to get off my property."
Exactly.
And people say, "Well, you're not being forgiving." There's forgiveness and there's no. Hell no.
Some people aren't deserving of forgiveness. I was going to tell you, I found a little bit of restraint today, mainly because I didn't know how old the kid was, and I thought it was funny, and I thought it was stupid. But I went into a Culver's fast food restaurant. You don't have them all around the country, but in the Midwest and Wisconsin, Minnesota, it's
I think
great.
we got one here in Georgia somewhere. I saw it, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think you do actually. I know we do have one in Savannah, and they're great burgers. So I go in there and I see a bunch of these kids in their
Mm.
teens. As you see kids in their teens, I was in my teens. We'd all get in there, play grab ass, as my folks would have said,
Oh
or
yeah.
horse play or whatever. But there's one kid in there. He's got to be 15, 16 years old, and he's wearing a "Make America Great Again." Now I'm wondering, why is this kid wearing that? First of all, we're in a suburb, maybe an upscale suburb, so maybe dad's rich and he's a big Trump humper. But I'm thinking, you're 16 years old. What the fuck do you know? You can't even vote. I wanted to say something to him. I thought, that's a no-win situation. I'm not going to say something to a child, but I got to think that's not helping you get girls if you're wearing that fucking hat.
No, but part of the problem with MAGA, they're like locked into the so-called toxic masculinity,
Yeah,
where they think. I I never understood where, in all the years I've grown up, is that I've never understood how being an a-hole would be attractive to women.
yeah,
I mean, now I understand the bad boy thing, but in the end, um, in the end, you end up alone. I mean, there was a lady community that talked about, she looks for when she's looking for a man, she goes, "How big is his stomach?" Everyone goes, "Why?" Because I know A, he's got a job, and B, he's going to take care of me.
yeah,
And and so her point was like, and I watch these guys and all this. That's what we're seeing right now. This weird misogyny about women and control, and they should do this and they should do that. And I'm thinking, you guys really didn't date.
Yeah, you must not
or
have.
or and also, but the other thing is that I had a lot of women, girls that were my friends.
Yeah, I did too.
And I'm not talking about friend zone and go that. No, I mean they were just easier to talk to, more relationship to talk about stuff.
Just
Because
hanging out.
yeah, and of men, we're the same. Guys are. We
Yeah.
don't talk about that shit. Not our generation. Our generation is that we're gonna. There's a great story years ago I read in English called "The Language of Men." It's a wonderful short story about how men relate and how they don't relate. And it was just about this army cook who just couldn't get the language of men down. And the guys didn't really trust him because he didn't know how to relate in their language. It's a wonderful story about that because when men talk to one another, used to, it's a little different now. There was such a like we put up barriers. We have to talk to certain things around stuff. Because honestly, if you got tight with some guy at our times, the G word would come out. And you think
G
you're
words.
gay or
Oh,
you're
yeah, 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 yeah,
homosexual or
yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know, and it's not it's that type of toxicity that these guys that the Republicans or the far right pull out thinking that's manly. You're not manly. You're a punk.
Yeah.
And the people who are really men know that.
When I think back to my high school years, my college years, I had a bunch of guys I hung out with. We did everything. We got in trouble together. We drank together. We did
Mhm.
all kinds of things together, and they were truly my friends. But as I look back, I know some other people who have since got out of high school and they're always hanging around the buddies from high school. They apparently established a closer relationship than I did. And it wasn't because I couldn't, it's just that that wasn't in my nature. I liked these guys and I liked hanging out with them, but it was very superficial. It was, we're having fun. And then when you ended up having kids and getting married and doing all this stuff, there really wasn't time for it. And you didn't have time for that superficial bullshit. I
No,
talked to a lot of,
mhm.
women or girls when I was younger too, not in a romantic way necessarily, but you could actually talk on a deeper emotional level. And I guess I kind of needed that. And those guys, while they're my friends, they weren't about that at all.
No, and I think that's the biggest issue we see it.
Well,
A
that's who
lot
the
of these,
Republicans are. I mean,
yeah,
they're all
but
superficial, all performative.
yeah, it got you. And it's just like I don't. I mean, it's hard for me to watch these guys because I don't get the absolute, really, hatred of women. What is it
Truly,
about women you
truly.
hate? I
Yeah.
mean, like they Trump was with that gut feel thing on doing his
Mhm.
show, and they're talking about Kamala Harris, and he can't understand why she's more successful than Joe Biden because he says it. She's a woman.
Yeah,
How is that possible? And I'm sitting there going, yeah, that explains your life right there, man. That explains
it does.
your life right there. That is so sad.
Well,
Um,
these people, these Republican men, are so behind the times. They don't understand what dealing with people is. It's all about I'm gonna. I knew guys like that when I was growing up. I'm the tough guy. I do this. I do that. And when I was in high school and college, I was as tough a guy as any of these guys. But I had a not a softer side, but a
mhm,
intellectual side.
right.
And I'd always see these guys, and that's all they knew. I'm tough. I'm gonna be mean, and I'm gonna say shit. And I always loved walking up to them because I wasn't that way. I wasn't
Mhm.
obnoxious or an asshole, but I was still tough as they were. So it was fun to kind of push them and say, "Just shut the fuck up." One guy said to me, he yelled at me because we're playing some backyard baseball game, and I missed a ball because I had a hangover. He starts yelling at me. I go, "Who the fuck are you yelling at?" And I walk over to him. I said, "I should just knock your ass out." And he goes, and he says, "Oh, geez, I'm sorry. I'm just very competitive." I said, "No, you're a pussy ass bitch, is what you are. Stop it. Don't
Exactly.
talk to me like that."
I
But
mean,
but
I played enough pickup basketball games to know how violent that can get. But yeah, I
yeah,
get you.
men are a funny thing, and they are hard to talk to. I understand why women have a problem. I mean, that's always been my joke. That's God's little prank on us. He made
Hmm.
men and he made women. And just for the joke of it, he made them think in polar opposites. So there's no way they can come together and understand what the other one is saying because it doesn't even come into their mind. And Jihad's got to be going, now this is going to be good.
Yeah, and we're see that's the dynamics we're seeing right now is that I think the desperation we're seeing from a lot of these guys, and we see it right now, is just that they can talk all the shit they want. Go back to Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was set up to fail. They've
Yeah,
been going after her for decades. Um,
because she's a
but
woman.
she's a woman, but also she was everything they. And the thing about it is that everything that Hillary Clinton said that Trump came true. So here we are, post first Trump, um, presidency,
Yeah,
only Trump presidency. I'm going to say that straight up.
right.
And we saw the disaster that was. That was a disaster. It was an economic disaster, um, an emergency disaster. I mean, he couldn't handle it because he can't. He does not know how to run anything. He
Now,
does not know how to step into a breach and help out. I mean, the one thing I will say about you read stories about great generals or great leaders, when shit hits the fan, they step up into the breach and do stuff. He can't do that. He's not built that way.
one of the things that with Hillary, it wasn't just that she was a woman; it was
Mm,
that she was a strong woman, and weak men can't handle that. But when you think about this, you have Barack Obama,
mhm.
and then you have the campaign of Hillary Clinton. Both those, the one administration and the one campaign, basically set the path for Kamala Harris to come to the top right now.
Yep.
We had a black president. We had a woman candidate who was strong, and now we have a black South Asian strong woman running for president. And everything is so fucked up. Everybody's worried about democracy. The least of their concerns are her color or her gender. So this is a perfect time for her to jump in here, and then that sets a different tone for history henceforth.
And competency is important too, because I mean, let's back up again 40 years to Reagan. Reagan did his thing. He was semi-competent, but he helped break the middle class. Then you were followed by George H. Not very competent. We saw what happened on his watch.
Right,
Um, George W. was, and then Clinton came in and very competent, refixed all the bullshit that
right.
H did, and then W came, fell apart, and then Barack Obama came in, and even though he had no Congress and he had Mitch McConnell pushing against everything he did, um, he still was successful. And then after that, we get the worst president ever, which literally just tore everything apart. Donald Trump is that dog you left in the back room who got a hold of everything and tore everything up, even the goddamn walls, ripped it all up.
Well, and
And we're still trying to fix that.
the thing is, you have to understand with Donald Trump is he wasn't just a bad president who did a bad job as president. He wasn't just that. He also screwed up America's trust in government, trust in the judiciary. He tore the fabric of the culture of this country over and
Hmm.
above whatever he did politically. He tore this country from top to bottom. And this is why, people are so adamantly now against him because he is incompetent and he's destructive on top of it. And people are terrified that he'll get back in and finish the job. He won't, but that's what they're worried about.
But the fabric of the country had been stretched really thin
Yes.
because understand all the years we're talking about the Heritage Foundation now. The Heritage Foundation started in the 80s. I remember when it popped up.
Yeah.
Started to Rush Limbaugh was a creation of the Heritage Foundation. It was a low, slow, long game they played.
Yeah.
Add in the Federalist Society. Little by little with Republicans, and Lawrence O'Donnell made a good comment when blaming what's going on with the abortion issue on Bush, George H. Bush, and Donald Trump, because H gave us Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas, and then Biden gave, I mean, and Donald Trump gave us the rest. But all the other judiciaries, all these years, it's been a long, slow um, um, uh, indoctrination or a misinformation campaign from day one. They've been doing it slowly. The religious things, the moral majority, the Heritage Foundation, the message, the Tea Party, these messages have been going into the public thinking that they have Americans' interests in the heart, but they don't. It was all for the power broker, for the Christian fundamentalists, for the rich. Why do you think the Koch brothers supported all this? Because they knew if they can break unions, they know that it led to economic taxes that helps them out. But they convinced the American people it was good for them. And then they got Donald Trump because they couldn't get over the hump. The last hump was getting the total Supreme Court and getting Roe v. Wade.
Right.
Now, the Roe v. Wade, no one really cared about Roe v. Wade to an extent. That came up as the creation of Jerry Falwell as a power broke. They found the one thing they think they could push people to, and they did. They had enough religious fanatics to push this. Just so you know, there is no rules in the Bible against abortion.
No.
Jesus never said this. I'll say this all to you freaking lousy, fake Bible thumpers. Also, Jesus is not against immigration because if you read into his words, welcome the stranger, um, you know, you know, Sermon on the Mount. Okay, that being said, but he used that as a power play. That's how they attached themselves to the Republicans because the Republicans were behind what the Democrats always ran Congress. The Tip O'Neill, Robert Byrd, they used this as a bludgeoning tool, and they were able to convince people that they were doing this for their sake, and God was on their side.
Yeah.
Now but they couldn't get what they wanted, and then Donald Trump lucked in, so they knew they had this fool. They can do whatever they want, and you see who was part of his cabinets, who was
Yeah.
running things, and then he did everything they want. The problem was at least the other people were competent enough to kind of keep government running. They put an incompetent in there, and when the pandemic came on, it fell apart, and the economy fell apart. And then, even though they got their wish, they came on the back end with too much baggage to defend themselves. The problem with Project 2025 isn't that it would have not have worked. It would have worked without Donald Trump because people would have bought into it as a better thing for the country because they've been brainwashed at the time.
People have to
But Trump,
understand. People have to
go ahead.
understand that Donald Trump is not an evil mastermind. He's
No,
not. He's not an intelligent man. He is incompetent. But what he was, I think, at first the Republicans were afraid of him coming in, and then when he got in, they realized, oh, this motherfucker can be manipulated very easily. And then he became a willful idiot. And these evil things coming out weren't coming out of the head of Donald Trump.
no.
They were coming out of the minds of Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, Chuck Grassley, all these people that
Yeah.
wanted these things, and they knew how to get him to manipulate it to lead the charge and take the heat. Donald Trump just agrees to do anything that he thinks is beneficial to him. That's why he was happy to overturn Roe v. Wade. He had no idea looking down the road that this might be the thing that burns him. But he doesn't have foresight, so he just did whatever he was told. Anybody who patted him on the head and said, "You're a brilliant guy," he'd fucking do it.
And
And
here's
th-
$50.
and here's 50
You know,
bucks.
I mean,
Right.
that's the way he works. And so we came back to we took Joe Biden, but Joe Biden won because people were just they couldn't stand him. And
Right.
Joe Biden has done a great job. And the problem that Republicans are having now, their oh shit isn't going to work. They got lucky in 2022. They kept the House barely because they
Barely.
had a problem with New York with their map, and so they got it barely. But everyone's now seeing what happens. They haven't done any legislation in 2 years of the first 2 years of the Biden and Harris administration. That was unbelievable legislation that came out.
Yeah.
We're benefiting from it. The reason the Republicans keep wanting to go back because it was so successful, and they've been totally unsuccessful because they don't want to govern. as Brian Tyler Cohen said, it's what they want to do is that they want to break government and then say, look, government doesn't work. It's
Right.
basically arson is setting the fire and then walking out and then making sure that the fire hydrant's dry. See,
Right.
doesn't work. And this is where we're at this point in America because everyone's like, oh, okay, this bullshit doesn't sound right anymore. It doesn't because it's so we finally kind of woke up and yeah, woke. You better you like it or not.
You
And
got you got
mhm,
to people have to understand though, because I'm getting a lot of people coming to me worried, and I tell them just because they're talking louder and more inflammatory doesn't mean it's worse for us. They are doing this because they've got nothing left. They are terrified and they're going to lose. So it's going to ramp up even more between now
yeah.
and November 5th. Just because they say something doesn't make it so. In fact, 9 times out of 10, it's a fucking lie. But people get caught up in it. Oh my God, this guy said this. We're in trouble now. Don't listen to these fuckers because they're pathological liars.
And that we're not in trouble. It's just that you have to. I mean, one person I saw someone had put a video and blaming liberals why they always react to it and makes them miserable. Let me make this clear. We're not reacting like we used to. We're just pointing out this person's an a-hole. I
Right.
want you to see this because we're not going to let you get away with it. What I love about the Harris campaign is that they're keeping on point. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do about. By the way, this man's an a-hole.
Yeah.
They do that as a background because you cannot let him get away with it. That's why the rhetoric thing is coming up because they know it's hitting.
Right.
That's why they're trying to tie it to the um, assassinations attempts. Oh, by the way, they're not talking about how did these mentally ill people have were able to get weapons, access to weapons, close to the president. You know, things we really should talk about, but they don't want to talk about. Um, and that's why we're down to what's going on in Springfield because that's desperation. So what do you got left? We got to
Absolute.
blame someone for this. So hey, it's them. And then JD Vance, Trump is bad. Trump will just parrot what you want. JD Vance is a manipulative, evil human being.
I agree. I think he's more evil than Donald Trump, and that might sound strange, but the only reason he's more evil than Donald Trump is because he's smarter and he knows what he's doing. Donald Trump has no clue.
And he keeps pushing, and he's even pushing against his own governor.
Yeah,
He's pushing against the mayor. I mean, and I've asked this question for Ohioans. This man does not represent your state.
he's not on your
He
team anymore. He's not. He's
he
on a
doesn't.
national level. He's not on your team anymore.
And also, who's running for Ohio Senate is this guy named Bernie Moreno, who's just as bad as JD Vance.
Yeah,
He's a rich, supposedly rich guy who stole from people, and he's pure MAGA. And he was in Springfield saying they should round these guys up and deport them. So
yeah,
let me make this clear, Ohio. You guys out there in Ohio, why?
yeah.
Do you want this again? I don't understand it. What benefit is it to you unless you just want people gone that don't look like you?
Well, and I was talking to Old Soul about this. We hear about Florida, maybe Texas, maybe Arkansas,
Mhm,
whatever, flipping to blue, and that's conceivable because of the abortion ban and all that sort of stuff. I
mhm.
have to wonder in Ohio. Ohio's traditionally red, and I get that. But when we have what's going on in Springfield, I mean, it's just a flat out attack by the Republicans. There's no legitimate reason for this to be happening. Everything about it is a lie, yet people are struggling and suffering. And it's not just the Haitians, it's anybody who lives in that
Mhm.
town is afraid to go on the streets. Does the rest of Ohio look at this and go, fuck, that could be my town? Maybe we got to get the Republicans out, or do they stay red?
Well, when the governor spoke out against it, bomb threats in Columbus
Right.
on the state house. So the the violence record. I don't want to hear this shit because we know where it's coming from, where it's going. It's coming from the house, you guys. I don't know because that's the one thing that bothers me about the toxicity and the disease that Trump has left put into this country and Republicans. It kind of balkanized us but not to the point we haven't started shooting each other yet. God forbid,
Right.
please. Um, because people are so dedicated to this that even when they see what's going on, they still want to stay with their rap because they don't want to. Do they not want to see wrong? Do they agree with the racism? Because to me, this entire rhetoric is two parts. One is that getting rid of all the immigrants, basically, you want America. I want to remove 25, 30 million people out of the country who are immigrants or literally, let's just say people of color. It's bottom line. But does that mean because do you really agree with it because you want make America white again,
Right.
more whiter? Because it's kind of late for that. Sorry, too late. And the second thing is the religious aspect of it is disturbing.
Yeah.
Even Trump was saying, he said, God wants him to be alive. He just called himself a Messiah.
Yeah.
I
It
am
is.
sorry. And if you're cheering for that, you are not Christian. You are just a cult.
I want to say something
There.
about the governor, first of all, though, of
Mhm,
Ohio. His name is DeWine, and he's
mhm.
talking about this thing in Springfield, and he's um, dismayed by what Donald Trump is doing. But the last question they ask him, are you still supporting Donald Trump and JD Vance for president? Yeah. I mean, how stupid is that? You have no critical thinking. This guy is terrorizing one of the cities in the town you are governor of, and you're still going to vote for him. That's the essence of what the Republicans are.
Mm.
And in the next half, we're going to get to this. Talk about that kind of bullshit. We'll talk about this lieutenant governor in North Carolina because that's a fucked up mess. But this is what it's always been. I don't know if people are afraid of Donald Trump or they're so caught up in the cult they can't help themselves and they stand by him no matter how egregious the things he does.
It's it's baffling to those of us who think for themselves.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what it is. It's just that I mean, they just are afraid not to be part of the group. If you're not part of the group, you're by yourself, and you're by yourself, you're alone. And being alone is scary too, because a lot of these cultists and a lot of I mean, uh, they're part of a group. I mean, one person like says the reason you see a lot of the old anti-abortion groups is they're all together because they can they can interact with one another, but they did it in a wrong way. I
yeah,
mean, it's 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 confusing to people like us because we have empathy and we care about others. It's not for them because if they live alone so much, they get angry about being alone. So that means it's someone else's fault.
right.
So it's got to be that person. And again, use a nerd term. Um, and it's so right this time. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering.
Right.
We're in part three now, people, because they just rolled you up in there. And I don't know how the Springfield thing is going to end. I'm afraid I had made a comment that it's kind of like historical again, and I did not know about the Tulsa massacre of the 1921
Yeah,
um, until there was the show Watchmen on HBO, and the central part of it was the Tulsa massacre, and I'm like, what? And I went and looked it up, and it said, "Oh yeah, thank you for that. Those are memories I will never get out of my head." Which
right.
led to Rosewood, which led to many of these that are happening. And I'm getting to the point that really bothers me that we might have that happen if Trump shows up in Springfield, and
I,
that is a worrisome because he may do it
I
to
don't think
make
he
a
will.
point.
I don't think he will. That's like sending a chicken with a meat suit into a wolf's den. He's going to be in trouble if he goes there because there's a lot of people that hate him. Since there's people shooting at him already, I can't imagine that the Secret Service will allow him to go there. But more importantly, it's what he said. We're going to take a break here
Yes.
in a minute. But what he said
Hmm.
was, "We're going to go to Springfield, Ohio, in 2 weeks." That term, 2 weeks, is the key. He also told us we're going to have a new health plan, 2 weeks. We're also going to have infrastructure, 2 weeks. We'll have evidence of the rigged election in 2020 just 2 weeks away. He always said 2 weeks. And that's basically flipping us off and saying it's never going to happen. He doesn't
So
have the
basically,
courage to go back there.
so basically, he said he has a concept.
Well, he has a concept of an idea of a, but see, what he's really doing there is he knows he's getting pushback. So he's got to try to validate it. He won't follow up on it like he never follows up on anything. But he's basically saying, I'm so sure I'm going to go there, and then never goes there. I don't think he'll go there. There's no value in it for
No,
him.
but it's just that that's their only campaign right now. Is that that's their only listen to them. That's all they've got,
Yeah.
and they're making it worse. And that's what I'm concerned about, because as they get more desperate and the crazies come loose, I just hope no one gets hurt. I am really concerned about that because of the way it's going.
I have a feeling somebody's going to get hurt. There's just too much violence, too much rhetoric going on there. I tell you what, Will, we're going to take a quick break. We got more to talk about it, so stick with us. We'll be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. We have Will with us today. Will is down in Georgia. He's got an interesting perspective of what's going down in that swing state. But I wanted to talk about North Carolina briefly.
Mm-hmm.
This is regarding a state office, but there's a lot of national ramifications from this thing. We know that Roy Cooper is the governor of North Carolina. He was one of the options to be Kamala Harris's vice presidential candidate. He did not take that opportunity because he didn't want to leave the state alone in the hands of the lieutenant governor, who is an absolute fucking nutcase. The weird part is he's an African American gentleman, but he is crazy. He said some unbelievable things like some people need killing. He's spoken badly about women. He's and he's running for governor. Now, you said it was a close race. I thought I saw something yesterday that said that he's down by 8, but I'm not sure if that's the case. I'll have to check into that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 1 point thing. I don't, excuse me, I don't know if they were talking about Kamala Harris with Trump as opposed to Mark Robinson, because I keep hearing this bullshit where the down ballots are doing better than Kamala Harris. That's bullshit. They're connected. The reason the down ballots are doing better because Harris is doing better. So that's another. I think that's a mathematical error.
Right.
But Mark, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, Mark Robinson has been the strong candidate for governor. Roy Cooper can't run again. He's termed out. He can't run again. There's somebody else that's running against this Mark fuck. And today, Donald Trump has said about this guy, he loves this guy. He's a solid. He said Mark Robinson is like Martin Luther King times 2, which is fucking absolutely insulting to Martin Luther King and absolutely ridiculous. But earlier yesterday, the Republican Party in North Carolina, the Republican Party on a federal level, were trying to get him to step aside from the race because there was some bad shit coming out. And some bad shit did come out. Apparently, he had some regular postings on a porn site, which should be enough. But on that porn site, he made some comments about being a black Nazi. He claimed to window peep now and again. And he said he was for slavery because he'd like to own a couple. Now, he's a black man. Now, these are things that should preclude you from being a candidate. But he would not step aside. As far as I know, he's still in the race.
Oh, he has till midnight. He has another 45 minutes to get out. I'm sorry, 55 minutes. Looking at my clock, 54 now as it turned. As soon as I said that, saw that, it was before my first break today for work, and I spent the break doing my video take on it. And my take was simple. Look, I don't care about the porn site, dude. Whatever you want to do to get your freak on, go ahead. But I want to make this clear. You do know you're a person of color, okay? Yeah. And it was like, and my descriptions were simple. It's like an old, like a Blazing Saddles bit. If you've seen the movie, you know which one a part of it.
Yeah.
Or the best one that popped in my head was if you've seen Dave Chappelle's show, the one with the black, blind, white supremacist. He was a
Yeah.
blind black kid raised by white supremacists. That's Mark Robinson, and
Yeah.
I
He's
don't he's
yeah.
how I don't know how to explain him.
Well, you talked about
Oh,
Blazing Saddles, and I don't even
yeah.
know if you can show Blazing Saddles anymore because you could do things racially speaking that you couldn't do before. But Cleavon Little was in it, and he was a
Oh,
black sheriff,
brilliant.
and he was a black
Yeah.
sheriff, and it was a very funny thing. And it was just absurd. The whole thing was absurd. And he's up there talking to the people, and the people are getting riled up. And he takes his gun out and puts it to his head, and he says, "Stay back, or the N word gets it." And the funny thing is, the people in the audience are going, "I think he's serious. You
Yeah.
better stand back." It was just silly.
And the best part at the end of it, when he gets into the room, he goes, "Oh man, you are so good, and they are so dumb." And it's a classic. Um, and yeah, they probably couldn't show it again because Mel Brooks offended everyone in that movie. He didn't
Right.
care,
Yeah.
all of it. But the part I was referring to is that when Gene Wilder brings him up and he shows him like he's dressed as a Ku Klux Klan member, but
Yeah.
he puts on his hand and and it's and he's black. He turns it over. He goes, "Oh, we couldn't get rid of the yeah. You know how those cross burnings don't wash out? See, it's pale now." And that's what I was thinking about. And those who are now offended, I'm sorry. Go watch the movie. No, I'm not sorry. It was a great film.
Yeah.
But the
We
point
don't.
is, I just never. I mean, how has he got elected in the first place? Please help me.
Well, what I don't understand is in North Carolina, you elect a governor
Hmm.
who was Roy Cooper, who is a solid, intelligent politician who's a Democrat. And you also elect separately the lieutenant governor. In my state, it's you have the governor and he has a or she has
Mm.
a lieutenant governor, much like a president and a vice president. But apparently it's different in North Carolina. But even if it's different, how do you vote somebody in like Roy Cooper and then this fucking clown, Mark Robinson? I mean, he is truly a cartoon character and he'd be funny if he wasn't so fucking dangerous.
I don't. I mean, I've heard it. I just. I mean, Josh Stein is the Democratic nominee. He's the AG running
Hmm.
for governor in North
Hmm.
Carolina, and he's. I think what we're seeing right now with the MAGAs and the MAGA um, people running is that they're still living in this bubble.
Yeah.
He honestly thinks what he says is going to make him win. I think that goes back to what we're talking about the immigration thing being the only thing that Trump's running on is that they're trying to shore up the base, thinking that there's more of the base than there really is.
I
And they
agree.
want the base to come out because they think if they get enough of the base to come out, those people who don't admit they're MAGA, there's the secret majority that's supposed to exist, that they're going to
Yeah.
win. And I think, but the problem with Mark Robinson is like what the problem with any of these Republicans and basically any kind of arrogant man, they have secrets. We all have secrets. But if you're above everyone, those secrets are the worst.
Yeah.
And I don't care. Honestly, I don't care about the porn site thing. Do your thing. But the point is that if you're acting holier than thou, then what's about to happen to you? You get to you deserve it.
Yeah.
Even
Absolutely.
aside from what you're saying, and we were talking about toxic men. Understand during the RNC they broke Grinder, and everyone knows what Grinder is, right?
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
gay dating site.
Gates. So I didn't see that about in Chicago for the DNC. So my question is, why? Not why, but it tells you everything. That tells you where they're at. I mean, I don't care if you want. See, that's the thing. They're so repressed.
Yeah.
They're so hold on to these things because they can't let go that it makes them mean. It makes them nasty. You can't be who you are.
It's as
You
if
do
they hate
stuff on the down low.
themselves. They hate
Exactly.
themselves. So they
And
put that hate on us.
yeah, and it can't be who they are. I mean, be who you are. Be what you want within reason. And I think that leads us to what we're seeing right now, this unbelievable because Mark Robinson is DOA.
Yeah,
He's
he's
DOA.
done.
I
He's
mean, when the
done.
Republicans start turning you, he's DOA. He's going to hold on because Trump's going to tell him to hold on. He thinks he's still got a chance. Bye.
But the
Um,
concern here
yeah.
is that on a federal level, if the more wild Republican candidate is, we see them lose over and over again. The people that Donald Trump endorses because they're too fucking crazy. It's not even Republican against Democrat. It's Democrat against some fucking nutcase, and nobody's going to vote for the nutcase. But that has the ramifications on the presidential race too. If people are terrified of this Republican and they vote Democrat, they're likely to vote for Kamala too. So that
Mhm.
gives the Democrats a better chance of winning North Carolina, like with the abortion bill being on the Florida ballot. That gives
Mhm.
us a better chance of getting a better turnout of Democrats or people who support that thing and an opportunity to turn it blue. This is what the Republicans are doing. Everything they do is the wrong thing and is
Mhm.
working against them. And I can't believe they don't realize that.
Because I think they have an ace in a hole. That's the only thing I keep thinking about. They
But
have an
what
ace in a
is
hole.
that? Where's the
The Supreme Court, and they think that's going to work. So let me go on and back up on a couple of quick things here. Um, in Georgia, we know about the election fuckery that's going on. I'm just
right?
saying straight up. The 3-2, the election board that's a majority of Trump humpers. They have passed another rule. They want all ballots counted by hand before they're submitted, and they want that effective the 14th. Now, you still with me? Because you just went blank.
I'm still here.
Okay,
I got something with the
okay.
connection here.
But Brett Raffensperger, who was removed from the election board by legislation that Brian Kemp signed,
Right.
and Brian Kemp appointed these three people. Kemp's running around like, "Oh, you lying sack of shit! You know what you're doing." But he is sending out. He has gone to the AG to send out letters to these guys because all the counties and precincts are going, "Look, the rules aren't the point. We can fight the rules later. You want these rules out on before early voting starts on the 15th of October,
Right.
and you want these rules effective on the 14th, and none of the counties or precincts have the manpower or prepared for these rules. And what the warning is, if you do this, we will fight you in court because it violates the law, not the rules. Is that you're trying to get away to certification before the election. He's sending out warnings to them. That means he's hit the wall
Right.
because now it's not it's they're they're so desperate. Going back to what we're talking about desperation. This is coming. It's coming from the RNC
Right.
pushing these guys because they know they're screwed, and the only thing they have left is to cheat and fight and try to put off the certification so that it doesn't get to Congress by January 6th. But already, Mark Elias and his team and the Democrats, they had two guys who filed suit in Fulton County wanting to go through everyone, wanted the right to push people off the polls, out of the rolls. And they showed up, and these guys backed off on their lawsuit all of a sudden. It's going to be a bitter, nasty fight.
Yeah.
We know this. We should win because a lot of this stuff that they're trying to do is ridiculous. Although in Pennsylvania, they did succeed in the Supreme Court. There's the Pennsylvania Supreme Court saying if a mail-in ballot has the wrong date on it, it can be tossed out. That's going to be a problem. So they've won some victories there.
Well, the problem with
Uh,
that is it could be Republican or Democrat, and if you're going to throw out one, throw out the other. Then hopefully it cancels itself out.
yeah, and that's like the I think was it in Arizona? Oh yeah, Arizona. Since some people hadn't 100,000 voters in Maricopa County, their proof that their residence has vanished, and they've been on the rolls for decades.
Yeah.
So they want to remove them. The only problem is the majority of Republicans. So it's the baby for the bathwater. This is their strategy right now. We can see it. We can feel it. We see it, and they were fighting it. That's the hardest thing right now is that come November 5th, that night, and November 6th, the battle is going to be on to the bitter end.
Yeah.
Um, Going back to the North Carolina point, I believe that that night, since North Carolina does the one thing that no other state does with their mail-in ballots, they count them before November 5th and then announce the results on election day. North Carolina is going to be settled, and there's going to be a big surprise. And North Carolina falls as the first domino, they're fucked.
Yeah.
They're totally fucked. Can Florida flip? I would like to think so, considering that Rick Scott's a pig. Ron DeSantis is hated. The abortion, not only the abortion um, amendments on there, the marijuana amendments on there.
Right.
Um, there's a movement in Florida. I don't know about Texas. That's just who knows.
Yeah, you can't tell.
I mean, I know you had Jason from Texas, but I mean, there's a lot of blue dots in a red state. Um, so everything's trending toward Harris winning.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a landslide? I don't know. It could be. It could be just a good win. He could get crushed electorally, but not by the way of popular vote. Because I mean, there's still pockets. These people who are dedicated to Trump are dedicated to Trump.
Right.
They're dedicated. There's at least a 30% of the United States are dedicated to him, which
Don't you,
is
don't you think?
scary.
Don't you think though? Significant or a decisive or even a landslide win by Kamala is almost something we need. I mean,
Yes.
the win is a win, but this is almost like a mandate. We're tired of you fucks. Go
Yeah.
away.
And it has to go into Congress because for some reason Mike Johnson is under the impression that he's making already plans after January 6th for his new speakership. Yeah, dude. No, I ain't gonna have him. I can't see the House staying blue because part of it, a lot of the House members, especially those ones in swing states, that not swing states but had swing districts, are running away from the abortion pill, the
Yeah,
abortion Roe v. Wade, saying, "No, no, no, it's not what we want. We want this one." No, you lying sacks of shit. We
you
know
did
what
it.
you did. You
You
did
did
it.
it.
Yeah, I mean, and so a lot of them are getting caught. The border is it's a dead issue
It is.
because because Trump ended that. Actually, the best thing what he would have done is just let it go, and then you can move on to something else. But he's so small minded, and they're so small minded. They thought they can fool the American people, and they didn't know Joe Biden was going to go. Okay, executive order. I did what you did. I did
Yeah,
what you wanted me to do, and their advertising is lame. They keep talking about the economy, but we know that's not true. They keep putting up Willie Horton ads about the some illegals that have committed crimes. It's not resonating, and they got nothing. And the only thing that we have is to keep the eye on the ball because there are consequences. And we had started when I came on. We talked about what's going on, about what ProPublica has put out about the results or the not the results. What's the word I'm looking for? The consequences
right,
of the Roe v. Wade and the states getting abortion under their control or reproductive rights. It's not even abortion; it's reproductive rights. And Trump was up there on the debate going, "Well, I gave what what everyone wanted." No, we didn't, because like voting, when they had the Voting Rights Act, you can't trust states to do anything right. They're going to do what they think a few powerful people are going to do. And in Georgia, the first it was already been passed, but as soon as Roe v. Wade went down, Senate Bill 418, called a life bill, whatever, was came into effect, which basically banned all abortion before 6 weeks, and also banned DNCs, which basically removes fetal tissue, um, and to help
right,
women with atopical pregnancies and miscarriages. Only in the life of a mother's, there's no fetal heartbeat.
right.
And but they're really narrow on what qualifies for it. So we've heard about Amber Thurman. and she went in, and it was, I mean, she took an abortion bill, which basically causes a miscarriage, but not all the tissue passed. So they needed to do a simple DNC, give her some antibiotics. She goes home in a day or so. But the Piedmont Health System and that Henry County hospital was so afraid of the law because there's a 10-year prison term for a doctor who um, performs a DNC not under the auspices of the law, that they waited 20 hours before the hospital finally decided to go ahead and do it, and she dies on the operating table.
Right, and that's
Another,
what, and
yes,
that's
go ahead.
and that's what the Republican Party is doing. They're putting people in danger, and yeah, in Ohio, they're
Hmm.
letting women struggle and suffer through physical problems because of their egregious laws and the anti-abortion thing. The Republican Party is not only tearing down this country, they're literally attacking people in this country,
Hmm.
whether it be the Haitians or women in this country. And people have taken notice of this. You know, the word is getting out. And this is one of the reasons why I think Republicans from top to bottom are going to have a lot of problems getting reelected. They've impacted so many people, and people are starting to see the stories, and they just can't stomach it anymore.
And it's coming from like ProPublica is not a big media, but they're big on big deep stories,
Yeah.
and they've already done another story on the second woman who died in Georgia due to that because she had lupus. She got pregnant. She didn't want the baby, so instead of going to a doctor in Georgia to help her, she got she on the download got the anti abortion pills or from India, and she took them, but she had complications with her lupus and her high blood pressure,
Right.
and she died. And she died because she was afraid to talk to a doctor because she did that. There was a 20-year jail term attached to it. These people are not doctors. They are just men and women with going back to what he's talked about before about they are high, they are arrogant assholes who think they're better than all of us, that they keep talking about life, but you don't support postnatal care. You don't support schools. You don't support child care. You don't support feeding kids. You don't support expanding Medicare or Medicaid. You don't support anything to help a person live. It's just you have the baby, good luck.
Yeah.
And so you couch these things in life to to protect some kind of religious um, extremism that doesn't exist in the Bible that you say you worship.
Right.
And as a Christian, as a person who would say he is Christian, who does believe in Jesus as his Savior, but I don't wear it out on my sleeves because Christ said you don't do that.
Right.
You don't do that because then you become false prophet.
Right.
It's in the Bible. It's in His words. Read it, and but all you do is you follow what Jesus wants you to do, and you live a good life. But these people have perverted my religion for their benefit, and they are no better than
Well,
the Taliban.
they pervert the Bible. They pervert the Constitution. They pervert
Hmm.
laws. They make it so that it benefits them. They're all about they're all about rule of law as long as it doesn't involve them. They shouldn't be held to account for rule of law or even the rules in the Bible or the Constitution. It gets tiresome watching this, and it's so transparent of how ridiculous and bullshit it is. You got to think that at some point people realize it and they want to push back, and that's why I think everything that these people do is now risen to the
Hmm.
surface because of Donald Trump. So there's no unseeing it. And this is, I think, taking a big effect on people in this country, even Republicans, because we're seeing Republicans step away from the Republican Party and from Donald Trump
But
uh,
the but the
in
Rep-
big numbers.
yeah, and the Republican Party has always been an opportunist party.
Yeah.
And I say this is that once the Democrats turned from the Dixiecrat ways under Johnson, the Republican Party was the first one to stand there. Hey, racists, come over here. We're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're cool. Come on over here. And then they developed because everything they do by the way of their so-called morality and um, economics for the working people never benefited us, only benefited the politicians, only benefit the very rich.
Right.
You see that, and it's been 40, if no longer. I mean, go back to the 60s um, of 50, 60 years of this, and occasionally we get a Democrat in or Democrat, and things shift back, but then we give it back to these guys.
Right.
That's the biggest fear I have. It's not that Kamala Harris winning, is that we don't give her the Congress to keep it up. Because if we don't, because one thing I keep hearing about people who want to make excuses not voting for Harris, well, why didn't she change in the last 4 years? Because you guys don't know how Congress works,
Right.
how government doesn't work. First of all, she's vice president, and B, you need a legislative. You have to have a legislative branch to approve. The president just proposes, but in everything originates from the legislation branch,
Right.
legislative branch, and then the checks and balances with the judicial branch is so fucked up. That's scary because anything we do, you have those guys up there, and John Roberts got exposed.
Yeah. He
His
did.
his his memos came out, and he was like, "Why are you violating the Constitution for Donald Trump? I don't get you, John. The Constitution, the people died on Bunker Hill for not to, against the king.
Right.
Why do you think a king is a good idea? It's
Well,
not in the Constitution. It never was built like that. What got into him?
Well, and that puts him in a bad situation, much like Clarence Thomas and Alito. I think the pressure is going to come out on him. Once we get to the other side of this election, the Supreme Court is going to feel pressure like they've never felt pressure before because the Democratic Party is not going to tolerate it. And if they have power, who knows what they can actually do, but they can make life difficult for these fucks,
Oh, yeah,
and they will do it.
yeah, we need. I mean, that's the thing. The Senate is the key. If we don't have 60 senators or at least 58, it's going to be tough
Yeah.
because again, the Senate. I've said this before, is a um, good old boy organization, but they always kind of did it with some kind of honor. Mitch McConnell changed that.
Yeah. Well,
He,
unless there's a
mm,
way they can cancel the filibuster. I've heard some people say that you have to have 60 votes to get rid of the filibuster, and other people say you just need a simple
no,
majority.
you have a simple majority to get
Well,
rid of the filibuster.
then we can get rid of it. And if we get rid of it, that 60-point level isn't an issue anymore.
No, and people think that the filibuster was part of the original. No, it was put in during the time of civil rights because they were trying to prevent it, the civil rights movement.
Right.
That's why it was put in for Southern senators to object to everything. Now it's got perverted. I mean, how is one senator able to stop anything? Who gives them that power? It makes
Constitutionally,
no
it doesn't make
sense.
any sense now.
No, I mean, we saw this with Dummy Tuberville. I'll say it that way because he stopped the military. He literally ground our military to a halt because he was of the abortion thing, which made no sense. And one man did this. One man, JD Vance, as he gets back into the Senate, he will be a one man fucking wrecking crew.
Yeah.
He will stop everything. It's going to be tough because you're going to still have those people in there, and that's the thing we have to keep in mind. Someone, one of the people I follow, made a comment. What's going to happen after Trump is defeated? How do we make it go away? And the problem we're going to have is if we don't repudiate the Republican Party with a damn landslide and push them into the Whigs dustbin of history, where they have to rebuild from the bottom up.
Yeah.
I will tell you, there are a couple people waiting in line.
Sure.
Brian
Yeah.
Kemp is a lot of things, but he ain't a dummy.
Right.
And he was approached about running for president instead of Trump. He backed off. Glenn Youngkin is another one. If it is not a huge victory, if it's still a victory, but not a huge one, Trumpism will not die. It'll just shift over to men like Brian Kemp, Glenn Youngkin, um, other uh, Christy Nome, people still there that will try to take up the mantle again
But
and
there's
start to
another
gaslight us.
there's another factor in this though, over and above the big win. I think it will be a big win, and I think it'll be a nice mandate against MAGA in general. But there's some other things that are going to happen after the election. You know, everything's pretty much on hold because of the election. Everybody doesn't want to look political, but in the process of not looking political, they're being fucking political. But after the election, you're going to see a lot of shit rain down on certainly Donald Trump, but other Republicans, sitting members of Congress,
Mhm.
people that were involved in things. We're going to see indictments. We're going to see the law working overtime against these people who continually break these laws and are corrupt and
Mhm.
doing horrible things to this country. Finally, after this election, some people are going to be held accountable, and that in itself, that whole process, depending on how many people they deal with, could destroy the Republican Party too before anybody could else come along.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm hoping for. That there's going to be some kind of because I mean all this we keep hearing all the time. I mean it's a clown show. It really is a clown show. I mean that's what I refer to it. I mean right now they're at the cusp of closing the government because there's enough MAGA fucks in Congress that Donald Trump is keep going to him saying, "Don't pass this. You
Yeah.
need to put in this SAFE Act," which is bullshit. But he doesn't want. He wants the government to close down so he can say, "Look what Kamala Harris did." No, dude, we're not going to buy that. You don't
No.
get it. I mean, Sean Hannity was on there. Why don't you just close the government? I mean, those people will just work, but they'll get back pay. Some people will go away, but they'll just be a vacation. No, dude, people aren't going to get their Social Security checks.
Yeah.
Military isn't going to get paid. And you think you're going to have people not work and get back pay before holiday season?
Yeah.
And you're going to tell us this is a good thing?
I don't think they're going to shut down the country, though. I think most Republicans don't want to do it because they know it would be devastating to them in the election. Most
But I don't
intelligent people do.
but I don't know if they think it will be, Mike, because I'm afraid they're in this bubble, desperation bubble, thinking this will be the Hail Mary that could stop it. Yes, damn sure, if we do this, Kamala Harris is finished. Yeah, right. 30 days for the election. You think that's going to work, but they might. Because you listen to these people, they are far, far gone. They have
Yeah.
lost their I mean, it's literally bunker talk. That's what we're hearing right now. They're getting into the bunker and they're gonna tell I mean, how else does Donald Trump think he won the debate?
Yeah. Well, he knows he
Because
didn't win. This is just a strategy, just to gaslight. Let me just um, let me
Mhm,
just say this. Every time we get to this point with the Republicans threatening to shut down the government,
mhm,
I always say they'll figure it out last minute, last day, because they don't have the courage, and Joe Biden's smarter than Mike Johnson. This has happened 3 times. And every
mhm.
time this has happened, people start shitting their pants, going, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I tell you, it's not going to happen. And I'm telling you this time, it's not going to happen. They're going to come up with some answer to at least extend it past the election. The Republicans don't have the balls to shut down the government because then I can guarantee you a landslide if that happens.
I mean, if Mike Johnson's smart, well, I mean, he's conniving.
Yeah.
I would say, look, I understand what you guys want, but if we do this, we're dead. So let's just get this to January 1 or after, January to the end of January. And then we'll see what happens because even in his little weasel mind, he knows this is a bad thing. Even when he talks the crap of to keep Trump happy, he's a survivor, and he knows what's going to happen if he does this. So I can see Plan B being okay. Let's get to the end of January, and then we'll see what happens. Because at that point, he's thinking that point we'll have the Congress again.
Well,
That's what he's thinking.
what Mike Johnson is thinking in his mind is that while this is Donald Trump's call, when he makes the decision to go along with Donald Trump and it fails, which it always does, when
Mhm.
it fails, he's getting the blame. Donald Trump's not taking the blame.
No,
So he knows he's setting himself up for failure and possibly the end of his political career.
I mean he's going to win his seat. He always. I mean, it's Louisiana,
Yeah.
and I'd say that I'm sorry disparagingly, but he's going to keep his seat. He knows that. That's the thing. We have to have a big enough majority in Congress so people like Mike Johnson, who survives um, the blue wave, can't cause trouble. They're
Right.
just sitting there, screaming in the dark, or the ones that at the hearings you all go, God, is this almost over? Um, because whatever they say is going to hit against the wall. Honestly, I think the two biggest people that have been a pain in the ass for the last few years, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert are out.
Yeah.
They're
I think
not
so.
looking good, especially Boebert. She's going to be DOA in her district. Um, Green is running against a really, really sharp dude who who was approached by Republicans to run for her seat. She's gone. I don't know about all the other, um, usual suspects like Nancy Mance or Chip Roy. They might keep their seats, but conversely, as you said, there are unsealed indictments
Right.
waiting for a lot of these folk. And I think once we finally get past this and get an AG that actually believes in the law, because that's the one thing I'm going to say about the Springfield thing. Where's the Department of Justice?
Good point.
You cannot tell me there's no federal thing when they're doing with the FBI. Where's Merrick Garland? He hasn't said a goddamn thing about this.
No, he hasn't.
Not a goddamn thing.
And I'm not a
Because this isn't
lawyer and
political.
I'm not an expert, but Donald Trump and JD Vance are, in fact, inciting violence against people. Granted, it's not, in this case, it's not the Capitol and the U.S. government, but it doesn't matter. You can't incite violence against somebody else. And they clearly are. There should be some laws that would apply to both these clowns. And we haven't heard anything from the DOJ.
I'm not even talking about the clowns because we know what they're doing. I'm talking about just an announcement that said, hey, I'm sending some FBI agents and the DOJ to investigate these threats against people, bomb threats. This is a federal issue. I
Yeah.
want to make sure everyone's all right. You don't even have to bring up politics. You just say, "Hey, this is a threat to Americans. We're sending the FBI and some investigators to see what's going on." It puts a fear in some of these people
Yeah.
because the FBI have been picking up people left and right for January 6th.
Right.
That's all you got to do. But the man is so handicapped by this thing that I'm going to be too political. Fuck that. These are people in danger.
Yeah.
Americans in danger.
It's almost as if uh, legally speaking, Merrick Garland is either impotent or a fucking eunuch because he doesn't have the courage or he's not aggressive enough to go after people breaking the law just because we don't want to make it too political. I'm tired of that bullshit. If all you have to do is be running for a position and you can commit any crime you want, we should all fucking do it. I'm going to be up for governor when Walz is done.
Yeah, I mean what Trump has laid out. I mean, he's been running for president what 2, 3 years now.
Yeah,
Since the
two.
minute he two, I mean, no one does that. He did that just to protect his ass, and they still got him. He's still hung out to dry.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know this, and this is his desperation is showing because he knows he's going to jail.
He's
Your
definitely
point
going to
about
jail.
yeah,
People
your
say he's
point.
never going to jail, but I tell you what, those other three cases, if he gets convicted of one of them, that's jail time. That's not, and he's a civilian at that point, and he's not running for the presidency. If they get him on the insurrection or the classified documents or Georgia, he's going to jail for those things.
and I want to ask the because the Republican Party doesn't exist.
No,
There is no Republican Party.
not as we
It's
knew it.
all no, and all of it is Trump run, the RNC, all of it. There are Republicans out there who are thinking they're going to rebuild the Republican Party. Michael Steele, the Cheneys. You're not. What are you going to rebuild it on? What? Because
Yeah.
here's the thing: you're going to build it on Reaganomics and conservatism. What Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have proved that your system doesn't work.
Well, not only
Your
that,
system is dead.
not only have they proved that that doesn't work, they got to deal with a whole nother issue. The demographics of this country are changing
Hmm.
over the next 4 to 8 years, and it's going to be mostly young people, millennials and Gen Zs, and they don't buy this Republican Party and they won't buy the old Republican Party. They're going to have to change dramatically if they ever hope to compete in any election.
Yeah, because they keep thinking. Because I keep hearing, we're going to return to the days of fiscal responsibility. Blah blah. You never were fiscally responsible.
No.
The statistics show that every time a Republican's in office, your economy crashes because you try to you give the upper class more than the middle. And now what you're seeing is, and here's the thing that's the hilarious part, is that those on top, the rich who deal with 401, who deal with the Wall Street and the stock market, who make money that way, are making more money than they ever did before
Yeah.
from the middle class out. And the point is, all they're going to do is raise your taxes by 10, 15%, and you're still going to be rich as fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you get more market. See, the thing about it is so short-sighted that these really billionaires and all that think that getting this tax cut. I mean, I know it's two-handed. One, the tax cut is because they want more money that they need to do whatever they're going to do with, and two, it's a power thing.
Yeah.
They don't like the idea of the commoners getting power and dictating what they want to do. That's why they hate unions to a core, because we are tired of not getting what we need. Americans are tired of not having an opportunity and being told no, they get it because they're here and you're not. We're tired of this.
Yeah.
We've had it. We fought those of us who are semi-successful or gotten to the middle. It's a bitter struggle, and you remember that. It's
Well,
hard.
and here's the thing. With the recent announcement that the interest rates were cut by 0.5%,
Oh God, yes. Woo!
um, and,
Party.
and Donald Trump and the Republicans saying that the economy is horrible. It broke the Dow Jones broke another record yesterday,
Yeah.
and it closed yesterday at 42,025.
Hmm.
You know what it was when he left office?
I think it was 22 or not even
No,
or
no,
10.
no, it was higher than that. It was like 30, but Joe Biden, it was around 29, 30. But
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden has increased the Dow Jones by 12,000 points. It's
Mm-hmm.
fucking crazy. And like you say, these wealthy people who are the only ones that really can benefit from the tax to the stock market, they got to be living in pig shit right now. They got to be winning all over the place. You would
And the
think they'd
rest of it,
jump on board.
but and then the 401ks for the I mean 401ks are just daily. I look at my 401k and go, I look at my wife and go, do you know my 401k just went up by 3 grand in 24 hours?
Yeah.
How the hell? I mean, the point is they're so focused on this little bit. And there's a lot of other factors. We know it's, there's the misogyny, the racism, all that still part of a way they think. But w- if you're doing well now and you had the economy over to a man who's determined to crunch it, I mean, this whole tariff thing, economists are saying he's out of his mind. Getting rid of 25 million immigrants, if you can do that, who's going to do the work?
Right.
Why do you think those immigrants are in frickin' Springfield, the
Right.
Haitians?
Right. They're working.
Because, as someone put it, because their population was a bunch of meth heads that they couldn't get anyone to work. So they reached out, and these people came in and they became hard workers. They're part of the community. And now those people are jealous because it's you have to blame someone else for your own problems.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing that people don't realize when you look yourself in the mirror. What did you do today to make yourself better? What did you do today that made you that helped someone else or made you feel or you feel made you better?
Or just did anything productive or do
Productive.
something for the country. Yeah.
And
And
even
Republicans just don't do that.
yeah, I mean, even if it's, oh yeah, I won 3 levels on Candy Crush. But I mean, but you see, my point is that that's a joyful thing. You're not, what did I do today? Well, I worked. My wife and I had worked out a couple of things about getting stuff in storage. Um, and I made sure the dishwasher was full before I pressed the button. Now
Right.
it sounds menial, but see, a lot of people don't live like that. A
Yeah.
lot of people live in fear. A lot of people live in self-loathing and doubt. And what do? They hate themselves, and hate lives to suffering. And that's what you see with a lot of these people follow these guys because they feed into, don't worry about it. It's not your fault. It's that person's fault. Where have we heard this shit before?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to
And
wind down the rush hour. I keep saying that. I used to say it all the time when I worked in traffic. But
yeah.
I'm thinking about what I got to do.
Mm.
Depending on when you listen to this, I may have already done it or I'm going to do it. But I got an interesting day, a unique day planned today. My son is getting married to a lovely young woman. My granddaughter's going to be there. They didn't want a church wedding. My daughter-in-law really wanted to just go to the courthouse and get married, but my wife had other plans to make it a little nicer. So they're getting married on a in like a little pavilion on the edge of the lake in which
Oh,
the
that's
lake I
pretty.
live on. So it's very beautiful. Yeah. And the key to this whole thing that's so unique to me is that I'm the officiant. I'm the one that's going to marry them. And it struck me as who the fuck would do that? But because my daughter-in-law asked me to do it, then I'm all in. I'm going to do what I'm told and try to stay safe. So by the time I'm back on with TikToks or this thing, I will have performed a wedding, which is something I've never done. So I'm kind of excited about that. That
Yeah.
should be interesting.
I mean, as long as do you want her? Do you want her? Yeah. Do you want him? Cool. Rings.
Uh,
We're done. Let's go.
yeah,
A little bit more than that would
let's go
be
to
good.
lunch. Yeah.
Let's go to lunch. I
Well,
mean,
that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have this wedding, and my daughter-in-law said, "I want this short. I got a little thing I'm gonna say beforehand. I've got a standard script for the actual ceremony, and the only reason I'm going with that script is I told her, I said, look, man, I don't want to do this and not go off script and then have you call me 10 years from now and say, look, man, we're not really married. We're just BFFs now.
oh
And so,
God.
but I was giving my daughter-in-law a hard time. She has no children. She'd been never married before, and
Okay.
she has this dog, Prim, and it's a great dog. I love that dog. And my son has a daughter, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I said to my daughter-in-law, to she'd be my daughter-in-law now. I said, most people buy dogs. They get dogs for their kids. You ended up getting a kid for your dog. That's a special kind of dog, Mom.
Yep. Exactly. And the dog's happy. Well, should be happy as long
Oh,
as
yeah,
she's.
yeah, they love each other. It's a herding
Uh,
dog, so she's running
oh,
around guiding my
that's
little
cool.
granddaughter around. Yeah, they love each other. I knew they would because she loves
Good.
dogs.
Well.
So it's an exciting day, and I'm going to be performing a wedding, which I never thought I would do. So
Mhm.
when I come back, I may be different. I may be more
Yeah.
solemn.
I doubt that very much. We don't have
Yeah,
solemn in us. But
I don't think so.
congratulations. It's always nice to have an extra family member,
Oh,
especially one that's take care of your son. That's good.
well, and the
Go
upside of
ahead.
it too is I told my wife and I told her, I said, I have known you for a short time compared to my son, but I think I can unequivocally say I like you a lot better than my son. So, so that's good. We're bringing in some positive vibes. Uh,
It's this thing. You're in trouble. And going back when I first met my wife before we, after we got married, there was one time, and my mom took my wife's side, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I'm going, okay, I'm done. It's
yeah,
over. I knew it
yeah,
was over there.
yeah.
But
You
yeah,
got to watch it.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It should be fun. All right. For those folks listening, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.